All right, guys, I just wanted to go over some of the more unique arenas in college basketball. We know the NBA arenas tend to be very bland, very basic, but with college, you've got all different capacities, different shapes, different sizes, just different Division I arenas, and they're all unique in their own way, but some of them are very, very cool. And this first one, Minnesota Williams Arena, nicknamed The Barn. You know, whenever I see this arena on TV, it always feels like it's freezing cold in there. I don't know if anyone's ever been there, if they can maybe prove that if it's true, but it looks like it's inside of a hangar, some type of factory with an oval-shaped roof. Really, really cool. And then it does have the high-rise court, which is kind of hard to tell on TV, but you can see the guys actually go lower, kind of like in the Final Four games where the court is risen, and when you want to get into the game, you have to step up onto the court or step down, and the first row of seats are like at court level. So it's pretty cool, but overall, just looking at it, you know, it's been through multiple renovations to the exterior of it, just all brick. It looks like it could use a renovation on the exterior, man. I'll be honest. And of course, this year, Minnesota just having a real tough year. They've been the worst team in the Big Ten basically the entire year. They were supposed to be the worst team in the Big Ten, but definitely a very cool arena. Really good home court for when Minnesota is good. Overall, I'll say just looking at the seats, very close to the action. The upper deck is extremely small. The uniqueness of having the suites at the absolute top, probably one of the only stadiums or arenas in college basketball or in the NBA where the highest point in the stadium is the suites. Or like, what are those, club seats and things like that? You can see those little sections up there, unique in that sense. So Williams Arena, one of the most unique stadiums or arenas in the Big Ten. Next, we're taking a look at the Memorial Gymnasium. And I was actually doing some research on this, the home of Vanderbilt. If you thought of a European-style basketball arena, that's what this would be. You can see probably the most unique thing about it is the fact that there are no benches on the sidelines. They're pushed, behind the baskets, which gives the fans a very good view of the game. But it also makes the perspective of it when you're watching it on TV and you see nothing on the sidelines very cool. And you have the four walls that separate four different sections of seating. And also built into the walls on each side, it's almost like they're suites or apartments with balconies to them. So probably that's something I really haven't seen at any other college basketball arena. It's so distinct and so obvious just looking at it on TV that it is a unique venue, really like no other Power 5 team that I've seen. Vanderbilt, the Memorial Gymnasium, and originally I thought this was actually Texas A&M's home arena. I guess I must have watched Texas A&M play a lot of games at Vanderbilt or something. I don't know why I thought that, but it is Vanderbilt's. I thought Texas A&M had this setup, but I Googled their arena, and it is pretty bland. Look at that. That's the overall look at it, and you can see just how separated the four different sections of seating is. That's very unique. You've got two of the baselines, very similar seating, and then the suites in the middle of the seats there. Next, we're going to be looking at Matthew Knight Arena. Of course, with Nike and things like that, home of the Oregon Ducks. And the reason we're looking at this one is simply due to the court. I think the court is really cool. A lot of people have their opinions on it. I do also believe if Oregon wants to be taken seriously, you've probably got to cool it on the court. But again, it's kind of like it's the whole idea of when you see this court, it's Oregon because they're the only ones that have these different designs. But when you are watching the game, let's call it what it is. There's a lot going on. It's like, whoa. It's like you get inundated with, you're trying to pay attention to the game, but there's also the court. Now, the overall arena, I believe it's one of the newer arenas of college basketball. Like, the seating is extremely bland. It's a 2-deck approach. Very bland, very standard, new arena. Nothing against it. Looks like it keeps the sound in really well. You remember Oregon with Dylan Brooks. They had a really nice home court advantage, but there's not a single thing special about it in terms of its uniqueness outside of the court, which is so noticeable because when we're watching on TV, it's always being shown. So if there was one thing that I might change in building it, I probably would have made the seats either like a bright, sharp, well, actually, you probably can't do that, but imagine they made the seats like a Sharpie yellow for Oregon, or at least like dark green. It seems like if you just change the color of the seats to your team color, it automatically gives the stadium more of a good atmosphere and almost gives the stadium character when they're this bland like they are at Oregon's arena. You know, it's tough. That's an interesting design there. It looks like that duck is some type of stalker or something. Very odd duck there. Kind of disturbing. But the next one we're looking at, of course, it has to be Assembly Hall. You know, this is the mecca of amazing college basketball arenas. They can never knock this thing down. Just the way the seats are designed are so, you know, just weird. It's like one big bowl that's held up by a wall, and you've just got one mass wall of seats and then a very small second deck of seats as well. Assembly Hall, the way it holds in sound when Indiana's good, like, really, even when they're bad, it is such a tough place to play. This is by far one of my favorite basketball arenas. You know, and Indiana has such a great... You know what? I wonder if they would try and maybe build a new one and just build it the exact same way, but maybe modernize the roof a little bit and do some things. I wonder if they would try and do that, but either way, the design of this is amazing. I just love the way the wall kind of comes down in almost a U-shaped form, and you've just got a mass wall of seats. It is truly, truly unique and truly cool. And you also have that really old vibe, like that bright yellow bench type vibe from like a school cafeteria, that type of, you know, feeling. And I just think it looks really cool. The only thing I'd say against it is the roof. It looks really old, almost like it's an old theater type roof or something like that. If they modernized the roof, I think it'd be even better. But still, I mean, Assembly Hall is one of the best. Next, we're going to look at Hinckley Fieldhouse, home of Butler. And this is one when I was younger, I always used to remember seeing it because Butler was actually really good at basketball with Brad Stevens, Gordon Hayward. But it's a crazy field house with a ton of windows that light, you know, shines through. The way the seating is arranged, I think it's just the perfect smaller basketball arena for a small school. It is such a great vibe. It gets really loud in there whenever Butler's good. And again, the main attraction of it is the brick facade with those massive overhang windows that allow the natural light to come in. So, you know, I think Hinckley Fieldhouse is really cool. And actually, when I was researching for this video, they had it ranked as #1 in terms of most unique arenas. And it's got to be at least top 5 just with the amount of windows it has, overall, the seating of it. Next, we're going to be looking at the Carrier Dome, the highest possible capacity for any NBA or college basketball arena, reaching 35,000 people at its height, normally whenever Syracuse is facing Duke. Of course, very unique in terms of a football stadium, a football dome turned arena, the way they do it. And the amount of people that they can fit into it is pretty remarkable. You know, those seats cannot be good on the far right. Those have got to be, how much do those cost? Like $1? The only time I see those seats getting filled is when Syracuse faces either Duke or North Carolina. That's it. Actually, you know what? Maybe Virginia. Virginia was, you know, really good a few years ago where they would always be ranked #1. So maybe but those seats are just so bad. Either way, it is obviously the biggest basketball arena in terms of capacity, kind of cheating because it's also a football stadium turned into a basketball arena and just kind of cut in half. But either way, it is on my list in terms of the most unique basketball arenas. Next, we're going to go with Wichita State's Circle. Now, in terms of uniqueness, it's not a crazy unique design, the Circle look. We know about Purdue having it. Multiple stadiums do this. But with Wichita State, it just feels so cramped and so small. And I remember when Wichita State was really good with Greg Marshall, Ron Baker, Fred Van Fleet. You know, this arena was like a crazy dungeon in terms of just energy. And it seems like it seats like 1,000 people. It's just so small. And the fact that it's a circle makes it look even more small. It is not a crazy design or anything like that, but I thought it deserved a shout out. And then how about the Citadel, which is a military school? The exterior of it is built like a half-assed McDonald's castle. I'm sorry, that was a low blow. That's not necessary. But I mean, apparently they tried to build it like a castle, and to me, it looks really bad. The interior of it looks like it can seat maybe 1,000 people, but you know, you take a look at the exterior, it does kind of look like a castle, and that was kind of the look they were trying to go for it. That field house, this is Florida's roof. I didn't even realize Florida had a roof like that. And then you look at the seating design in the interior of Florida, there's really no decks to it. It's just all one connected seat design that has spaces in between the sections, which is something that's pretty unique on how they do that. Maybe as a way to keep the overall noise in the stadium and keep the seating good, but there's no decks in there. And that's just a lot of seats to have zero, you know, to have no upper deck or lower deck or anything like that. But it is an interesting roof design. Honestly, I think the roof looks quite outdated. And I think they were talking about a renovation. I hope that's not what the renovation is, because that does not look good. But either way, the roof makes it appear on this list. But guys, I just wanted to go over some of the more unique college basketball arenas. That's going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.